Good evening, everybody. Happy first snowfall if you are in the Ontario, Canada area. Beautiful snowfall today. Beautiful day out. Great weather. Snow flurries. The kind of day that just makes you want to get in touch with nature even though it's cold outside. Great day. My name is Tristan. I work at Ashley. I've been working with elemental growth for be 3 years come February. Some of you know me through the protocol, the outreach protocol. I'm one of the people who contact you, talk to you over DMs on Instagram, and ultimately bring you into our beautiful family and our beautiful community. If you are watching right now, you are joining me for our live at 5 every Sunday. I do have a small apology to make. Some of the lives at fives, we were having technical difficulties with recording it. So today I'll go back again and I'll touch base on some of the ones that didn't get recorded and I'll make sure it's all integrated and tied together into today's lesson, which is going to feed off of last week's episode, so to speak, around healing. And I'm feeling called to talk about anger. A little while back we talked about fear, stepping into our fear. And I think what ends up happening is when we choose not to. When we choose to be afraid, we choose not to step into it, not to face it head on. We become overwhelmed with this helplessness. It makes us angry because we feel we can't emotionally do anything about the issue. We feel we can't physically or tangibly do anything about the issue. And, if it's something that we feel really strong and passionately about, we really feel and comfort in the uncertainty of outstanding issue that needs to be resolved. We want to physically brute force it. We have that primitive instinct that if all else fails, we can attack it. And then when we find ourselves in the era that we live in, where we can't physically make our problems go away, then that anger stays in us. It then becomes a transmuting exercise of taking that negative energy that there is a proper name for the negative energy that gets trapped inside us. I will look that up as I am continuing my story here. And if this negative energy remains inside us, our chakras get clogged. And it's not just a simple, the energies get bottlenecked or they can't move. We have this negativity inside us. It's a toxin, it's a poison. This is the area of your life that will be giving you migraines, headaches, ulcers, literal physical symptoms of what comes from an emotional source. Let's see if Google will help me with the name of what I'm looking for. I want to say it's Tapunga, not 100%. Of positive and negative energy. Do we have a winner? No, it doesn't seem. Pessimism, cynicism. Yes, thank you, Google. Not quite what I was looking for. Uh, Deepak, I'm going to say this wrong as well, I'm sure. Deepak Chopra does a really good, one of his YouTube reels are around this, and I really wish I had the proper term for you. I will find that and leave it in the description. So, what do we do about this? How do we transmute it? One of the steps does fall into how I open every segment here. We're going to go over it, and I'll tie it into the way I walk everyone through the chakra system and how it all relates from one chakra to the next. And you can really see the effect of if one is toxic, how it seeps in through all the other chakras. So take a moment, close your eyes, get comfortable. Imagine, if you will, you are entering into your body and through your third eye. You travel down through your spine. You come to the base of your spine, your tailbone, and you are at your root chakra. This chakra is opened and thrives from security. It thrives from safety. This is tied into the amygdala part of your brain, the fight or flight processes, the most basic of your default mode network. This is the area that you resort back to when there is no thought process that takes place. This is the area that thrives off of knowing that you have warmth, that you have shelter, that you have clothes on your back, that you have something to eat, water to drink. And a very, very good method to help open up the root chakra if you are feeling insecure or if you have fears that are plaguing your life is take a moment and think of the things that make you feel secure. One visualization technique that I like to use if I'm really having one of those rough, rocky days is I will imagine I am in an armored vault. And I'm sure this is different for everybody because being in an armored vault that's airtight might be terrifying for some people. But for myself, it makes my body feel safe to imagine that I am in a vault. Nothing else can come in. It is just me. Inside this vault, I have everything that I need. I am warm. I have water. Think of my stomach. It helps if you've just had something to eat so you feel that you've fed, that you are fed. Have some water, make sure you're hydrated, let your body know that it's being taken care of. And so often will your fears go away when you physically realize and you let your body know through sending it these physical signals that it is not in danger. So take a moment and think of the things in your life that make you feel really secure. Try to come up with one to two. And when you have them, we're going to exhale and we're going to move into our sacral chakra, 2 finger lengths below your navel. This is our pleasure center. Our sacral chakra is blocked by guilt, is open and it thrives off happiness. And I would almost dare say it can even play into the superficial kind, the warm coffee in the morning, it's Christmas time. We have snow, so I'm thinking fuzzy slippers. The things that just make you feel warm and cozy. Nice hot chocolate. Some people it's your computer, some people it's your work, some people it could be a hobby, an art that you do. Think of what gives you joy, bliss, happiness. Think of at the end of the day, if you had nothing else, everything else was gone, what's the two or three things that you would have left that just makes you still feel good? Give you an example for myself. I heard one time somebody asked to find your passion, or said to find your passion, asked this question. If the world has already ended, you're the only one left alive, reasonably speaking, what would you do? What's the thing that you would do to stay happy? What's the thing that you would do to stay alive? And, given how you played the scenario in your head, what's the thing that you do that lets you rebuild the world? This is one method you can use to help find your passion. Now, that can also tie into your heart chakra, and we'll touch more on it in a little bit. When you have 2 to 3 things, aspects, and elements of your life, people, places, things, objects, that make you fucking joyful and explicit, take a deep breath. We're going to exhale into our solar plexus, right below where your ribs can join in the center, your stomach. This is your willpower. This is your motivation, what gets you up in the morning, in the middle of the night, when you have ideas that you just can't rest until you write them down. It's where a lot of your excitement comes from. When this is blocked, it's what makes you get stuck in a rut. Take a moment, think about 2 to 3 things that really drive you, really motivate you. Again, it plays off your passion. Sometimes if you can find that first, the rest of the chakras will unlock themselves. When you find what motivates you, what drives you, sometimes it's only one thing. Take a deep breath. We're going to exhale up into our heart chakra. This is our love chakra. This chakra is blocked and plagued by loss and grief. When it comes to areas of anger, as well as healing, sometimes this is the core to it. This is where we feel that loss, and perhaps we can't do anything about it because the person is gone. Perhaps they've died, perhaps they have just left. Bridges have been burned. So this is the chakra that is based off just pure love. This is the chakra that's based off forgiveness. Sometimes, at the end of the day, all we can do is forgive ourselves. I know so often with the kids when they get angry, one of them in particular will always tell us that their heart made them do it. Had darkness in their heart, sadness in their heart. That's what made them angry. And it's finding a system that works for a 5-year-old, and it's finding a system that works for adults. Finding these methods that can be universally translated to anyone, any gender, any language, and any age is gonna be where the world starts to find its homeostasis. If you can imagine an entire world in a homeostasis state, I believe Ashley would have called that Eden. So take a moment, find the people, find the passions, find the moments. For me, sometimes this is memories, the memories that people can't take away from you, the moments that make your life complete, even if they're moments that have already passed. When you love something, someone, gives you the courage that you could literally die tomorrow and be accomplished and know that everything's okay because you had succeeded at, accomplished, lived this one moment. When you find that moment, you can think of 2 to 3 things, people that you love in your life. We're going to move into our throat chakra. This is where things get fuzzy or very clear. This is the negative or positive self talk that reflects so much around affirmations, how we speak to ourselves, the things we think. Put it very simply, this is the area that's blocked in your life. If you're telling yourself you're always going to be broke, you're always going to be fat, you're always going to be a loser, you're always, pick one. We've all been there. Yeah, have the devil and the angel on your shoulder. Whatever the little devil whispers to you that you want to ignore. And an amazing way of opening your throat chakra is to, when you're ready for it, just be honest with yourself. What are you lying to yourself about? What actually can change? What isn't as bad as you actually think it is? The best way to reprogram your throat chakra is to focus through positive affirmation. This is where you will be able to release anger. This is where you'll begin your healing. So much of what goes on in the body is sourced around the throat chakra. Communication, especially if you're feeling angry, a great way to resolve an issue is to be able to communicate it with somebody. Express how you're feeling in a professional manner. And depending on how you speak to yourself and others, this will alter your third eye. So take a moment, think of 2 to 3 really positive affirmations that you can tell yourself. You're strong enough, you're determined enough, you're skilled enough, you are rich enough, you can afford it, whatever that it is. You have value. Remind yourself of it. And when you have that, 2 to 3 things positive that you can say to yourself, we're going to exhale, we're going to move into our third eye. You're going to find by this point that your third eye is very much determined by what you say, by what you tell yourself. And what you tell yourself is determined by the lower chakras. And it truly is a ripple effect. And so often, if you get the root chakra right and you can pop it open just by feeling safe and secure, you can travel clear up through to the third eye and you can see yourself. You can see your future, you can see your plans, can see what you want, you can see what you don't want. And when you can see it, you can release it through your crown. So take a moment. This one's a bit different. This is where you can see how everything is connected. The best way to open your third eye is to see the synchronicities, to see that life is happening with you, for you, and it is happening to you. And it really is all for a greater purpose if you can navigate it. The universe is very quiet and you do have to listen, because it won't talk over you. It won't talk over your negative self-talk. Seeing the connections of how everything in your life has led to one point, that you had to go through that place to get to this one. This will be really detrimental to healing, and a really good step in improving anger as well. So when you have those 2 to 3 things that you can think of, and see how it's all connected, and how, in fact, if you found your passion in one of your lower chakras, everything in your life is happening for you to fill that passion. Just take a moment. Let's exhale right up into the crown chakra. Let's think about release. Let's think about what you don't need, what you have. Think about all your accomplishments, everything that if you died tomorrow, you honestly would be good. We've all lived a long, fulfilling life. So much more fulfilled than some of us realize. It's when we find that peace inside ourselves, that inner peace, that we can let go. Quite often, a great way to unlock crown chakra and have that release is to just focus on the lower three. I mean, when you can see all of them together, it makes a big difference. But really, if you can even focus on the lower three, you can focus on what you have that makes you safe and secure, makes you happy, what gets you up in the morning. You really can release the rest of all that gobbledygook. As you exhale, just let it go and flow out through the top of your head. Let yourself absorb just pure cosmic energy. So last week, got into the topic of healing. So walking everybody through the chakras, which I always like to do before I start any day. Most of my days I start with running myself through the chakras, making sure that I know that I have in myself what I need to let go of negative energy. Sometimes you gotta sit with it. Sometimes, if we have anger and it's making this negative energy that's stuck and trapped and circulating through our chakras, what ends up happening is we get sick and we can't heal. And the thing is, positive thinking only gets you so far. And if you really do have negative energy stuck inside you, they'll keep warping and they'll keep twisting. And it plays on your throat chakra because it'll keep twisting your thoughts. This anger. And it's not just one chakra, it's always tied to, with my experience, two or more. I'll give you an example with some of the kids. They like their tech, they like their video games, and it is an addiction. And they hit withdrawal so quickly if they can't have that dopamine hit of the flashy lights and the overstimulation, and it gets anger, and then they feel the sense of loss. So that the self-talk that you need something and you need it right now, you need it right this bloody fucking second. It doesn't matter what it is. Video games are a theme, but this can be alcohol, this can be sex, this can be companionship. This can be something as simple as you're feeling lonely, depressed, and you want someone to talk to, and no one's available. Holy fuck. Who's been there? How hard does that feel? Gotta be patient. Gotta wait for what you need, and your Sakura Chakra is gonna make you happy. And then you're feeling loss and grief in your heart because you don't have it. And somewhere in between, you've lost the motivation to go on because you don't have what makes you happy. And then it dips into your lower chakras. Then you don't feel secure. Then you don't feel safe. So the chakras don't always go in order. It's not a linear sequence. It's very much for anyone who, knows a bit about circuitry and electricity. It's a parallel series where they're all interlinked and connected together. In many ways, I think it would be much simpler if it was like the old Christmas lights where if one bulb went out, one chakra went out, the rest went out, and then you just find that one. No, they're just intertwined, feed off each other, and they get stuck in a loop. And you ruminate. This is how we ruminate. And that feeds back into the negative self talk. And I suppose to complete the series or the sequence is, once you have all these blockages from the throat down, you can't see a solution. You can't see an outcome. You don't really have it in you at that moment when you're feeling the intensity of these emotions for the first 90 seconds. You really do have that little emotional stall, like a car that just doesn't want to start. Third eye's your map. You can't see where you're going. It goes through willpower, so why bother, right? So I would say the most important element, whether we're talking about anger, whether we're talking about the opposite end of the coin there, healing from anger or healing from the negative effects of any of the chakras. We need to take a moment and we need to remind ourselves that this is a frequency that is passing through our bodies. And it really only does last 90 seconds. So if you can remember that you're only feeling sad for 90 seconds, that you're only going to feel unhappy 90 seconds, it's almost like your appetite. If you remember, or for anybody who's ever heard this before, they remember when you're eating, it takes your body 20 minutes to register that you have taken your first bite. So quite often, if you take a few bites of something and you wait 20 minutes, your stomach will feel full and satisfied in that 20 minutes. Quite often what ends up happening is people who just eat, rapid eat, and they binge and they really, what am I looking for? Gluttony. They indulge. That's what I'm looking for. They indulge in what's going to make them happy. That 20 minutes hits, they're ready to puke. They're just so overfilled because they didn't wait. So our emotions hit us very similar to this concept. 90 seconds. All you gotta do is wait a minute and a half, guys. Breathing techniques can come into play. There's mantras, there's affirmations, there's mudras. Last time I mentioned finger knitting, which I'll be happy to go over today. And once you have that 90 seconds pass, and really you don't have to time it, you just have to breathe through it, is a good technique for it. And your body gets the signals that it is safe, that it's not a life or death situation, and you don't have the stress levels peak. You can then work with your throat chakra and your positive affirmations, and quite often, like I said, you can go back through the basics of what I call a chakra analysis and just remind yourself of what you have, that you are safe, that you are secure. Okay, you can't have that one thing that's going to make you happy. Then what? What else? If you really can't think of something, think of your other chakras. What motivates you? What's going to give you patience? What else do you love? What other passions do you have? Sometimes we may identify to ourselves that we're not good at numerous things, but the thing is, if we like doing it, it doesn't really matter if we're good at it or not. There's art, there's drawing, singing. I mean, the list goes on. There are things that we can do if we can't get what makes us happy. Often it's recommended that if we're feeling anger, to have a designated go-to area. For an adult, this would be perhaps for yoga studio or area of your house where you go for stretches, exercise, yoga, gym. If you have a punching bag, garden. I like to just go sit in the garden. And the way it's set up, my back's often to the garden and my eyes are closed, so I don't really get the appeal of being in the garden. But I know I'm there and it helps. And you can breathe through it. Thing with anger is it makes those 90 seconds last so much longer. Somebody once said one time, you think you're in good shape and you think you're athletic, and then it's like try to do something for 2 minutes. These boxers, they go for 2 minute rounds. Martial artists, they'll go for 2 minutes of sparring. And really, if you think of something as simple as planking or doing a wall sit, something physical, you do it for 2 minutes consecutively, hold your breath. Those 2 minutes turn into hours. And the thing with anger is sometimes we are too quick to act and things will get broken. Things will be spoken. And, damage can be done. We're going through this with some of the kids, and even I myself am reminded every so often that I still have it. I still have that 12 to 16-year-old teenage temper. And sometimes, if I'm not doing the proper maintenance for myself, physically, mentally, my body does hit those stress levels of it is tricked into thinking it's a life or death situation. We act very different. There's nothing to be ashamed of. It is something to be aware of. And goodness gracious, so often if we are harboring anger, if we're harboring hate, there's something seductive about it. There's something that people hit within them that it's almost comforting that we want to ruminate. We want to let it stew. It's almost like a zit that if we apply pressure, that when it pops. Sorry for the visual, but it's just gonna feel so much better. And as part of emotional intelligence, it's our job to make sure that you're all aware that these areas exist, these dangers exist. And so often, internally, if you're still feeling angry, even if your every action, your every word spoken to yourself and to others come from a place of positivity and love, if you haven't transmuted that anger or any one of the blockages inside the chakras into something positive, your body gets placed into a state of stress where it really does think it's in a life or death situation, being hunted by a tiger. Um, it's what people refer to as fight or flight. And categorically speaking, it can be both. You can want to fight and flight at the same time. And it becomes very hard to face the fears. It's very hard to do anything when we're in the state until we really get a grip on ourselves. People get ulcers, and this is part of where the addiction and say drug seeking behavior falls into play. And when I say drugs, I'll even go back to video games. It's that dopamine hit. It's when your body physically gets restless without whatever it is. And will hold injuries. People will get ulcers, people will get arthritis, people will get swelling, people get, my God, stress rashes. That's one of mine. Get itchy, get hives break out all over. And someone will ask, like, oh, what do you eat? What's wrong? What do you touch? What are you allergic to? It's just like, I'm just really annoyed. And you get so irritated because of this negative energy that's inside you, it will physically manifest into something, and your body won't heal until you've transmuted it. So let's jump directly into how we can heal, how we transmute this energy. And in some ways, a few of these might sound counterintuitive or counterproductive. I'm just going to speak from personal experience and really express what works for me and why it works. In many ways, there's two ways to deal with if you are expressing or feeling anger at a person. You can write a letter, very sternly worded letter, to this person and then burn it and never let them see it. That is one really great way. You can do a burning ceremony to release it. Another one that I like even more is sit down and write a love letter. Write a positive letter. I don't really like the term but. I like to substitute and. If somebody says, I understand that you're busy right now and you're working really hard, but I need la di da di da. That but really throws an infraction into the flow of the intention. If you say and, this is a tip for speaking to yourself, it keeps everything on the same wavelength frequency. If you say to somebody, I understand you're really busy and overworked right now, and I also need to add to your list, I need you to ask you to do something for me or something, it expresses the sympathy on both ends. So, just getting the differences out of the way. When you're writing your letter, to this person, you're going to want these kind of examples. And depending on how it's worded, you can use both. Because we're going from a negative situation to a positive one, if you're writing a strongly worded letter to somebody, but you want to make it good, you can start the conversation to "You drive me crazy, but I also love you, and I also love you." You can put down what you like about the person. You can put down how your life has been impacted and how the value in your life has gone up because of this person, even if they drive you nuts. If you sit and you transmute negative thoughts, ants, automatic negative thoughts, if you sit and you transmute facts, could be something along the lines of your kid took your car, crashed it. Think of all the other things that your kid's done that you fucking love. That's a really positive, really powerful transmuting exercise, is to take the hatred and physically, tangibly turn it into a positive letter. Very similar to how, if anybody's familiar with the 28-day program, we do that with the negative thoughts and the ants, and then we turn and transmute them into something positive so we can use it in our affirmations later. Essentially, this is a technique that really can be used in all scenarios, in all situations, with all people. Sometimes the person that we're mad at is us, ourselves. This is one of the more tricky, well, it's the same concept. Some people find it trickier to unblock a throat chakra when, if we feel guilt and shame and loss, grief around something that we've done to somebody else. And, there's the taking responsibility for our actions. There's also forgiveness. And really, when we can forgive ourselves, when we can sit down and think to ourselves, yes, we made a really horrible mistake, and we learned our lesson, and something positive came out of it, helps us find that forgiveness. If we're talking about healing in the sense of something that's physical, if we have a stress rash, if we have a physical break in our bone or leg, if we have an ulcer, these are the exercises, these are the areas that you should take a moment and think about. I kid you not, guys. Our bodies really do what our brains tell it. In so many ways, and it's backed up by so much scientific proof. Our bodies don't know the difference between what our mind tells it and what is real. We can be in a life or death situation, and if we convince ourselves that we are secure, that we have things in our life that makes us happy, we're more than happy to get up the next day and do it all again. If we have our passion, we do what we love, and we tell ourselves all the good things that we tell ourselves, and we can see our future being great, and we have that release. It doesn't matter what kind of situation you're in. Your body will heal. A big trick to releasing anger and to healing really does come down to letting your body know that it is physically in a safe environment. Another hobby that people have that plays into this, when we're angry, they cook, they clean. I think there's a cliche or stereotype you see on TV shows quite often is if somebody is doing a lot of baking, it's because they're angry or it's because they're stressed, something along those lines. And it really is a way of transmuting it into something positive. And the truth is that when we are in control of our environment, it gives our mind that control over our bodies, and we begin to heal. If you think of some of these testimonies that people have been given when they have been diagnosed with a terminally ill disease, and they're given whatever 6 months to 3 years to live, and they reevaluate everything in their life that's driving them fucking mad. Everything that they wake up and they just, it's the negative talk and they can't tolerate it. It's good to be able to track that. It's good to have negative talk sometimes because it helps us focus on what we get rid of. So they focus on them and they focus on getting their bodies to feel that it's good. Being in a state of anger doesn't always feel good. They take control over their environment, they take control over their body. They start doing the things in life that give them that passion. If you were to die tomorrow, could you do it with pride? You got 6 months to live. What do you do? Or that one scenario that I really like is the world's already ended. There's no one left. No money, no luxuries. What do you do with yourself? That passion that you have. Is it writing, reading, exercise, building, music? People find these passions. These are the people that walk out of the hospital when they're told you're going to be paralyzed from the neck down. These are the people that go on to live into their 80s, 90s when they were told back in their 20s you're not going to make it another 6 months. People who don't make it, people who stay angry. The biggest trap that comes with anger is the victimhood. You can YouTube my autobiography in 5 steps, 5 easy steps or 5 easy chapters, one of the two, it comes up. And, people keep making the same mistakes over and over. But it's the mistake's fault, guys. I fell into a hole because there's a hole in the street. It's the hole's fault. The hole's there. It's the hole's fault that I keep stepping in it. They say anger. They say angry. They don't transmute it. And it's a different level of thinking that, depending on how deep you go, it can not even touch on shadow work and it can completely surpass shadow work. These are the areas that keep us stuck. And it's a fine balance between anger and healing. And often, I've seen this and I've experienced this, is when we can heal our anger, we heal ourselves. And if you're having trouble with transmuting the anger, worry about healing yourself, getting your body to a state of being where it just feels secure, happy, and the anger will pass. Take a look, guys. We got about 10 minutes. So I'm going to loop this back through to what I was talking about a few weeks back with synchronicities, the energy shift into synchronicities. And this becomes another byproduct of opening the chakras, of being able to heal, of being able to transmute that negative energy. And you'll notice this around your third eye, not physically in your head. I mean, sometimes if you're really sensitive, you can feel fuzzy tingling on your forehead. This is the moment where you can look back and it helps you heal when you see how you wouldn't be where you are now, you wouldn't have who you have and what you have had you not have gone through the source of where it all started. And you see the synchronicities of how that one event has played and tweaked and twisted and rerouted everything where you are. And when you realize this and when you see it and you feel that energy shift, not only will you be really happy that you see how all the dots are connected, you'll start seeing more and you'll start being able to almost predict the path where you're going. Because you can see how it all adds up. You can see the results. If you think of it something a little bit more basic, like a diet or exercise regimen, once you start to see the results, confidence builds, the motivation flares and starts to thrive. The healing begins, and especially if it's been a long journey and it's been a long time to start to see results, the anger will start to dissipate because we'll start to really get it that we're making it, that we're there. Sometimes we're so close and we don't realize it. Transmuting energies can help find your alignment to these synchronicities. Positive self talk, affirmations can help you see these synchronicities as well. The best advice I have to you is every morning, wake up. I personally get up early. I like to get up at about 4:30 and I take about 3 hours. And sometimes it's physical, sometimes it's physical exercise or yoga or stretching that I'll be doing. Sometimes it's mental. Sometimes, to be really honest, if I have been going through something and I wake up in a foul mood, I need that 3 hours in the morning to just ruminate, transmute, and burn it off. Turn it into something good. Get it out. Journaling works too, ruminating. It's a talent to be able to ruminate and come out on top. It's much easier to be able to journal, to be able to physically put it down and see it. And our bodies have this funny little trick that if we need to remember something and it's really important, this is how have personally experienced it. And if we write it down because it's important, we don't want to forget it. Once we've written it down, we've released it, and then therefore we forget it. So I actually remember things better if I don't write them down. This trick is also very useful when you want to forget something. Write it down. Write it down in the way that you think you're going to want to remember it, and your body, your mind, your spirit, your soul will just release it. I mean, think of the history of throughout our lives, how much stuff we write down versus how much we've actually retained. If we remembered everything just by writing it down, all be geniuses. But the reality is, the more we write, quite often, the more that we just release. And it's therapeutic if you take your journal entries and you can meditate over them. You can create a ritual of burning. You can use a candle, you can use a fireplace. Meditate over burning these negative elements that you've journaled. You can meditate over ruminating as well. I would say if I ever taught somebody an advanced class or skill, that would be it. Um, Especially if when you journal and when you write, you put down both. You put down the negative and you transmute it into something positive. And you can save the positive affirmation for later. You can record yourself saying it and listen to it back while you're going for a walk, while you're doing your morning exercises, dishes. Let it run in the background. And you burn both. And what I feel is a nice thought is when you're burning to release, you are vanquishing the negative and you are also releasing and manifesting positive. So you are coming to a completion by doing one action. You're purging the negative and manifesting what you want out of it. And this is a technique and an example of how to take our power back, especially in those moments, going back to what I said, where maybe we just don't have the option to have what makes us happy in the first place. And we need that release. Journaling, writing a love letter. You know what else is really empowering? If you don't burn it, you can give it to the person, especially if it's been turned into something positive, and they feel the energy. They take the compliment, and then your relationship is stronger because you've done that for them. It turns into a gift. It becomes one of the five love languages. Another more advanced skill and technique is you can write a negative letter, a sternly worded letter. You can give it to the person and say, look, this is how you made me feel. This is what came out. I had to write it down to forgive you, forgive myself in the whole situation, but this is what came out. I would like to, throat chakra, communicate this with you. And then you work through it with the other person if the anger is based between two people. If you're angry about something that's a little bit more superficial, you can't have your video game, or you run out of alcohol, or just your vacuum stubbed your toe at the wrong place in the wrong time. Um, Talking to it isn't going to help, obviously. And it gets into, and I'll loop back around and touch more on it next week, is all this loops into facing your fears, stepping into your fear. Ideally, that's how you're going to want to heal. That's how you're going to want to release the anger, to face the fear of it. Have those hard conversations, guys. Don't keep things locked inside you. Coming to about time now. I'd like to thank you all for joining me. If what you've seen here today has helped you in any way, or it resonates, aligns with yourself or somebody you know, please share this information, share this video with that person, or if it's something personal for yourself, feel free to give us testimony. That will really let us know if you give us permission to share with people. Lets other people know what we're doing here and how we can help them align to their goals and live the best life that they want to be living. If you have any questions or comments, topics for future discussions, please, you can email us. You can email Ashley, quite literally Ashley at elementalgrowth.org. You can also email myself, Tristan at elementalgrowth.org, and we'll be more than happy to address those issues. You can contact us personally. We can set up a one-on-one call to go over it with you. And quite often we will deal with questions and answers during our 12 o'clock Sacred Sundays. Thank you all for joining us, and I will see you next week.